West Tigers podcast, episode number 411, midweek edition, joined by Nick and Garry on a Wednesday night before the West Tigers Friday game at Brookvale Oval at 6 p.m. Garry, we were going to be joined by our new war correspondent, Steve Stretton, but unfortunately the line has dropped off.
Yeah, I think he flew out of the country before it got blown up or something. So I think he's back in Australia now.
Just a bit of background on that. I think Steve was in Qatar, as was
Dubai.
Dubai, yeah.
Dubai. Close enough, Garry.
Down the road.
Um, yeah, as was my Tigers supporting mate, who's a race caller, who was over there, and obviously some dramas over there. So Steve is safe. He is home, but he is in no shape to do the podcast tonight. But Nick, another Friday 6 o'clock game. Are you looking forward to it, or are you dreading it like me?
Bit of both, Eddie. I'm looking forward to getting it out of the way. But I'm very hopeful. I know Gary sort of said it the other night that we can beat Manly, and it's kind of talking me around. I do think we can beat Manly. I think if there's a team that we can topple, Manly's the one. So yeah, looking forward to 2 points.
Not Friday the 13th, Gary, but it's got a bit of a doomsday feel to it, this game, for both clubs. Whoever loses this game is going to be copping it big time.
Yeah, my prediction is that Manly loses this week and Seabold gets sacked uh, probably next week, but within 2 weeks, I think he will no longer be at the Manly club. So I think it is doomsday. I'm quietly positive that it won't be our doomsday.
Yeah. A little bit of feedback from our last podcast just before we get into our regular midweek stuff. We've got a bit of buy, sell, hold. We'll preview the game on Friday. We've got Yioti's quiz. We're going to chat Tallyn Da Silva, but just some feedback first. Rusty63, he said, painful progress is the word, boys. You should have just done a 5-second podcast, he said. It didn't have to go any further than that. So, sounds good to me, Rusty. Uh, yeah, is it Lestrong, Garry, or Lestrange? Should have looked it up.
Strong, I think it is. He did
Strong,
tell me once. I can't remember what it is.
yeah, he made an interesting post, a number of observations. Doesn't agree with us with everything he said. He said in regards to killer instinct, basically all the things the Raiders did should have been penalties. So Nick, you would agree with that?
100%. Spot on. We're strong. Love your work.
He said Latu to 13 would have been due to the hammy. Given 6, you're far more likely to be doing short sprints. 13, most game is up and back, Garry. I think we'd both probably agree with that initially, although he is in the 7 jumper this week.
Yeah, and isn't that great? I hope we talk about that a little bit later in the pod and go into a bit more detail. But yeah, I do agree with what he had to say. Um, yeah, look, he was on a minutes restriction, and he's right about that explosive running at 7. That's more of a risk on your hamstring than probably the workload at 13.
Mickey B, Nick, he said, Seyfarth's a nice guy, but not up to it. My same question again. How do we know he's a nice guy?
I did start to talk the other night that I had met Alex Seyfarth at my local shops because he's a resident in a neighbouring suburb and he's a nice fella.
Okay, good.
Um,
We'll take that back then.
yeah, and he's been dropped to the bench. So anyway, look forward to seeing what he can bring impact wise.
Mickey B also said that he supports Jack Bird on the right edge, Garry. I think he's got his wish.
Yeah, that's a pretty good tip considering that's what we saw when the side was announced yesterday afternoon.
All right, boys, into the agenda. Tallyn Da Silva's been in the headlines the past few days. Been free, apparently, to negotiate with rival clubs. According to some of the News Limited guys, he's already met with Todd Payton, Newcastle, Seabold, and I think it was James Hooper might have said he reckons he'll be gone before June 30th. So, Nick, this has all happened very quickly over the past couple of weeks. What do you make of it?
Well, you mentioned he'd met with Todd Payton. Is that in regards to extending at West Tigers? Because we'd kind of backed Payton
Not.
into a contract the other night. Yeah, I don't know. Look, he's the type of kid. What is he? 20? I think he turned 20 in April. Well, not long ago anyway. But he's the type of kid you'd want to hold on to. I didn't see NRL 360 tonight, but I had a quick look on X before we jumped on. Apparently, there was some discussion on Talon and Tigers losing players, and I think someone made a comment that this has happened before with Tedesco and Moses, etc. But Look, plenty of potential, but 20 years old. I know that there was an example. I think it might have been Kelly actually on X posted something tonight saying that, Harry Grant was happy to sit behind Cameron Smith until he was 22 and didn't complain about it, which is very true. Although Melbourne is at the top of the ladder and we are generally not. So it's disappointing. If he really wants to leave, the rumours are that he wants to stay at the club, but, if he can get an opportunity elsewhere, he will. So I don't know. I'm just at a point where, if he wants to go, if he's going to whinge about it, like, Galvin did, then let him walk out the door.
Leading up to round one this year, there was a little bit of talk around that the club wasn't completely sold on him, that they were only 50-50 towards extending the contract that he currently had. So I think part of this is the club's made a decision that that's not the direction they want to go, and they're actually happy, well, maybe not happy, but willing to let him go because he's not really in the future plans that they have. So I don't mind it if that's the decision they've made, as long as we're at a spot where we've got Appy signed up. If we let him go and then Appy doesn't extend, then that leaves us in a very vulnerable spot heading into 2027. So I'm hoping the fact that there is a little bit of talk around him moving on, that means that Appy's probably extended.
Well, that's Gary. I was going to say that. That's clearly. I reckon they're going to announce that Appy's signed till the end of 2028. Whether that's the right move or not, I have my doubts. As much respect as I have for Appy, but again, dealing in rumours at the moment and innuendo, there was some noise that potentially Shane Richardson wanted to back Tallyn Da Silva, but also said to the coach, "It's your decision, Benji Marshall," and he's obviously gone with Appy, who's a senior guy he can trust, but is that a little bit short-sighted, or does it point to the fact that he has to win games in the next 2 years if he's still going to be the head coach?
Well, he definitely needs to win games over the next 2 years. Like we can't have another season next year like we're having this year. There needs to be upward progression constantly. So I can the major issue that I've had from the outside looking in with Talon is the fact that the ultimatum that if Appy extends, I'm going to the open market. That getting into the media, I don't mind him having that feeling and wanting to look elsewhere if Appy extends, but to publicly have that come out that he's saying that and coming out through his manager, I think is a poor look on him. And I don't think he's done enough in his career at this point in time to be making those sort of demands to a club that about a player who has played state of origin football, has won multiple premierships at multiple clubs. I think it's a bit soon in his career to be pushing that hard. Fair enough, decide to go elsewhere, but to put an ultimatum on the club, I think is a bit rich.
I'm tempted to go on a bit of a rant here, Nick, but I've got a bad head cold, so apologies for my voice, viewers, because if I'm sniffling and snuffling my way through. But like, how often can we blame players for having a poor attitude? Like, you know, as much as I hate to admit it, and whether this is fair at the club or not, the reason Harry Grant is happy to stay at Melbourne till he's 22, or Savala at the Roosters is happy to sit under Daly Tree Evans, is just because they create a good environment. So, how long can we keep blaming young players for wanting out, and then they go on to have a great career at another club?
Yeah, you've got a very good point there. And you've only got to look at how happy Lockie left when he left the club too. And not just how happy Lockie left, but how supportive. And I know they're all mates. And when Galvin left, in the first week, he said, "Look, it was really hard decision to leave the West Tigers because a lot of my best mates are there." And they're obviously very supportive of him. But Talon was one that was extremely publicly outwardly supportive of Lockie's move, and I've got no doubt that that had quite a bit of impact on him. I know he probably hasn't made a decision yet, but it's likely going to probably influence what he is going to do. But yeah, I agree, Eddie. We've been cellar dwellers for a while. We are on the up. We all hope to believe that we're on the up. We're starting to play a brand of footy that looks like we're on the up with some question marks and asterisks around that. But yeah, look, if Talon came out tomorrow and said, I've signed with Newcastle or Manly or whoever it might be, then, that's that. I wouldn't begrudge him for doing it. I'd be disappointed, but I wouldn't begrudge him for doing it.
The culture's stunk at the West Tigers for close on a decade now. Now, I don't think anyone can deny that there is a genuine attempt to improve that culture and improve those sort of feelings towards the club amongst players. But you need buy-in from the players to do that. And if you're not getting buy-in from the players and you have guys who still want to leave because they've been here for a while and it hasn't changed quicker enough for them, there's not a lot you can do about that except continue going down that path of that improvement of culture. And I think everyone can see there's a genuine effort from the club to make those improvements. You can see it in the players that we've signed, you can see it in the leaders we've brought into the club, and that's going to take time to improve. But you need buy-in from the players, and it's quite obvious we've had a few of our younger guys who haven't bought into that process or haven't believed that process.
Why?
And
Why? Why?
well, I don't know. It could be that it's taken too long to occur for them. It could be that they've been here for 5 years already, and the change is only just starting to come through now. Or it could be they're resistant to that change as well. That they don't like that change that's happening. They don't like the new leaders that are coming in. They don't like the standards that are being placed at the club. I don't know what the reason is for them to say no to that. I hope the people inside the club know what that reason is. But you need buy-in from those players. And for the most part, you look across our squad, it looks like we have buy-in from the majority of the players. You listen to the majority of our players speak about the club. It sounds like there's buy-in in that change of culture and the direction Benji Marshall's taking the club. But there are a few players who haven't bought into that. There are a few players who don't believe in the direction of Benji Marshall. One of those players openly came out and said he doesn't believe he can develop under Benji Marshall. But if that's the direction we're going as the club, we need players that buy into that. And if Tallyn Da Silva's not buying into that, then I can understand why we're going in a different direction.
Would you say Appy's bought into Benji's philosophy? Because I think he has.
He is driving Benji's philosophy.
Yeah,
He's been trying to drive that philosophy for the last 3 years now. Two of
yep.
those years completely by himself. And I think there's been a bit of support brought into the club to assist him with that moving forward. But hopefully this is the last we see of this, and hopefully the juniors we've got coming through. We've had, and we are losing a really good junior. I think he's a very good player, Tallyn Da Silva. We've lost Lockie Gavin. I think he's a great player. But there's other juniors who have extended. Heath Mason's extended. Macassini's extended. Paul A extended last year. So it's not all the players we have that are walking out. There's players that are buying into the changes that are happening in the club. And hopefully over time, the percentage that are not buying in reduces.
Yes, but in fairness, Gary, like it's like a draft. If you might kill a draft, but if your top two players walk out, it's a disaster. And if they're your top two juniors, Galvin and De Silva, like I'm playing devil's advocate here, but Shane Richardson, he pumped his chest 18 months ago and said, we were going to retain all our local juniors or, try our best. And the top three would have been Galvin, De Silva, not that Stefano was a local junior, but he was on that sort of track. Is this a bit of it just feels like the club's constantly in a addition by subtraction mode. Something goes right and then it's another step back.
Look, I really think it comes down to what we replace them with. Um, I'm not going to say I'm disappointed to see him leave because I think he's a fantastic footballer and I'll be very disappointed to see him leave. But I had heard before, even the Lockie Galvin stuff blew up, that Tallyn Da Silva was not high on the priority list for the club. And I don't know why that is. Um, I'm not necessarily thinking this is just a Tallyn Da Silva decision. I think part of this is a club decision as well.
Nick, I've got a couple of other points on this I wanted to raise. I'm just reading through all my rants here, but do you think there's no doubt Appy's a fantastic player? He probably could play through to the end of 2028. I'm struggling to get my head around, like in general, if that was a decision. If it's a senior guy, I'm not going to say he's on the slide, but he's in the twilight of his career against a guy who, for all decent for all we've seen, he's going to be at least a 10-year first grader. And if he turns out to be a rep player, that's a bad decision for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's pluses and minuses. It could swing both ways, to be honest. The way I look at it too, and you're talking about, struggles retaining, junior talent, we've got to become a winning club before any of these kids want to stick around. If we continue missing the eight, finishing in the bottom two, three, last, whatever it might be, these kids are going to be looking for the next place to move on to. So I ask myself, what's our best chance of making what is the combination that we're best chance of making finals next year? And I see Appy in that nine jersey. I don't see Tallyn getting more footy than what Appy would be making, next season. So, look, we need to get into the eight. We need to be winning games consistently, or at least more often than we're losing. Appy for me, at least over the next 1 to 2 years, if we can recruit around him as well and strengthen some of those weaker positions, like we've talked about back row and lock. If we can get some quality in those positions to give a bit more starch to the attack, a little bit more, locking up that defensive line, then I think that can go a long way to us being more successful on the field. And then hopefully the next kids, like young Jared Hayward, who I haven't seen play, I've just heard a lot of raps about him. Hopefully, kids like that will say, you know what, I don't want to go anywhere else. And he's probably, I know it's been said, he's the logical one to step up out of Talon's shadow and maybe take over from Appy in, 3, 4 years' time. So maybe it's him, but we've got to start winning games. Bottom line.
Gary, my last rant on this situation. Uh, why should we just let him go straight away? Like Galvin. Like, okay, Galvin was a big circus. This is not a big circus. So why do we just go, oh, we're going to roll with Appy and who cares? We'll play Tristan Hope if Appy gets injured. Why not say talent? You can go wherever you like in 18 months, mate, but you're staying here because if we want to make the eight and if Appy goes down, we need a quality backup. Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
I
there's
can't.
the smarter people than me working the salary cap, but are we just rolling over again?
I can't disagree with that, Eddie. If we had turned around and we got Kai Pearce-Paul for the rest of the season, even though it's only a short-term benefit, I think I probably would have been okay with him leaving. If he leaves and there's kind of nothing in return,
That's what happens, Gary, every year.
then
Every year.
yeah, well, look, I guess we're going to find out in the next couple of days because June 30's like 5 days away. So if he's leaving this year, then we're going to know about it this weekend. So let's see what happens over the weekend and see what comes out of it. And I guess we can have a return to this conversation on Sunday night.
What are the odds Talon doesn't play a minute on Friday night?
You wouldn't, yeah, I mean, it was interesting, Nick Benji's comments, like, obviously he's not being vindictive, not putting him on, but he didn't exactly go into depths. He just basically said, no comment on
Yeah.
him play. So
Yep.
looks maybe you'll get a farewell game of 2 minutes on the weekend, Gary. Thanks for the memories, talent, and off you go and have win a few premierships somewhere else.
Carry him off.
Not in a good mood, Gary, as you can tell.
Yeah, I like Cranky Eddie. Makes me laugh.
I just got to, ask questions because I don't want to go down the path of talking about history repeating, but Jesus Christ, if they end up three-quarters of the players with Moses and Tedesco, it's going to be a not only is it infuriating for the fans, but it's just going to be a disaster for the club if that happens, Gary.
Look, it will be a disaster for the club if the club has a similar trajectory after they left. If these two guys go off and they have really good careers elsewhere, but the Tigers are playing consistent top eight football and challenging for the top four and challenging for premierships, then no one's really going to care. It really depends on what happens after they leave. Like the replacements we got, like bringing in a Josh Reynolds isn't going to cut it. So it really comes down to what happens after they leave. And that's if Talon does leave. It's what happens after is more important to me than what happens in their career.
But just the last one, Gary, like I'm trying to find a positive or what would be the reasoning to let him go before June 30 if you're not getting a player swap. Like, obviously, I'm not inside Concord.
It
I'm
can't
not
be
a
roster
coach.
spots, can it?
I'm not, yeah, no, I'm not a coach, but like the only reason I can think of is that, he's attached to Galvin and spreading negativity around training or he's not engaging in training or something like that. But I just can't go through another one of these situations where we're just giving up one of our best juniors seemingly for nothing halfway through a season that's meant to be still alive, according to a lot of people.
Yeah, look, if you aren't getting anything in return and you're releasing this guy this weekend, the only reason that I can see that you could possibly do that would be because he's bad for your culture, he's bad for your environment, he's bad for your team, and he's bad for morale. Now, don't know if any of those are true, but that's the only reason I could see why you would release a player like Tallyn Da Silva, especially in this rush. Like it's kind of come out of nowhere in the last week. And it's a strange one because Newcastle, from what I've heard, approached the West Tigers about getting him for the rest of this year on a loan deal, and then offered him a contract through the club, and then kind of backed all away from it. So I don't really know what's going on. I don't know if something's going to happen. I to me, Newcastle's recruitment policies over the last 12 months have been all over the shop, and I think this is another case of that. And they're kind of, I don't, not to say we've been caught in the crossfires, but we're kind of being wrapped up in that a little bit, I think.
It's
He's
not
been. I read that he'd also been linked with Manly. That
And
seagull has
Parramatta,
been.
and the
Cowboys.
Yeah,
Bulldogs,
yeah.
and
There's
the
a few.
Cowboys.
Well,
There's a
like he's a good player, Nick. Like it's not like he's being offered to English Super League. There's half the NRL want him, which is my
yeah.
concern around this situation.
And,
But
and in fairness to the guy, he would be a starter at a number of clubs around the NRL. So to be fair, like I gave him a bit of a whack over the demands he that he won't extend if Appy stays. But having a look at it, he would be a genuine starter in a number of teams already around the NRL.
So just a theoretical, if Manly, if we said, okay, we'll give you Talon, to Manly, would you take Jack Simpkin back?
uh, well, you need someone better than Tristan Hope, but I don't think Jake Simpkin for Tallyn Da Silva is not a swap that's really exciting me, to be honest. But it's not like I don't want to make it sound like Gary. It's an easy situation for the club because it's a tricky one. Like you guys are saying, like you've got an elite rep standard hooker who probably thinks he's got 3 good years left in him, and the ideal situation for me might not be possible, which is you loan him out for the rest of this year or even for the full year next year. And then you say to Appy, you're done at the end of 26, or maybe you re-sign Appy for 1 year and Talon starts in 2027. Appy comes off the bench, but it looks like that's an ideal world that's maybe not realistic.
Yeah, the player has to want that too. So, um, and as I said earlier, I'm still not convinced that the club actually had him in the plans moving forward.
Really?
Yeah, 100%.
But that's like revisionist history for me. Like the club doesn't
Mate,
want him because they've lost the battle again.
I heard that back before the season started, back before the Galvin stuff kicked off, that the club was only 50-50 on offering him an extension.
Okay. I mean, the player does have to want it, Gary. I know I'm harping on about this, but my only point is the players tend to be happy to sit back at other clubs. And obviously, our club, it's frustration because I thought with Jerome's arrival, this sort of stuff would stop happening, but it's not.
Yeah, look, I think it has with a lot of players. I think it's that buy-in that I was speaking about earlier. I think for the majority of our squad, we have really good buy-in. I think there's a couple who have been in our squad that we haven't got that from. And I think there's another one who's on the verge of reducing his buy-in at the moment in Royce Hunt.
Okay. Feel like Ray Martin or Tracy Grimshaw, Nick. I'm asking you all the hard-hitting questions tonight, aren't I? Really on top of
You
you.
are. You are. You don't look like Tracy Grimshaw. Maybe a little bit like Ray Martin, but
Let's do something else. Buy, sell, hold. Gary, we'll start with an interesting one. It's not actually a buy, sell, hold, but I'm going to call it buy, sell, hold. It's if you could bring in one current player at the peak of their powers from the West Tigers history that's no longer here, could be retired or could be still playing, to the current side, who would you bring in?
Uh, Probably Benji Marshall.
Really?
Even though there's a fair, oh, mate, there's so many. Because as
No,
soon
there's
as I
not.
say
There's
that,
not. There's not so
I now
many.
want I now want
I'll go
Gareth
first,
Ellis.
Gary, because I'll
I'm
give
going
you.
Gareth
To be
Ellis.
fair, I didn't give the boys a head up on this question. But
Gareth Ellis is my answer, but
I
Benji
thought of
Marshall's very close.
two. I thought of Scott Prince or Gareth Ellis. I didn't think Benji Marshall, not because he's not the
No,
best player in the West Tigers history, but just the
how
current
do you play
makeup
him
of
and
the side.
Jerome?
What's your answer, Gary?
I'm going Gareth Ellis.
Nick?
I was going to say Gareth before Gary spat it out, but yeah, 100% someone hard on the out on the edge there, which we don't have. Gareth used to hit lines with speed, and you had a bit of agility too. A real tough nut. What did he win? Players player was it threes in a row or twos in a row, whatever it was. So freak of a player, great player.
Because it's interesting, Gary. I was listening to my friend Rob's podcast.
Your best mate now, aren't you?
Yeah, your mate as well now, apparently. And I thought he was being a little bit sneaky with, I listened to Adele and I loved listening to his rap of the game, but he dragged Adele into our debate about the best
Yeah,
West
I
Tigers team
lost
ever.
all respect for Adele.
No, I didn't lose any respect for Adele, but I thought Rob was being a little bit sneaky because my impression of that debate was the teams were picked according to what those players did in West Tigers colours.
And
Whereas,
I think you and I made that very clear, Rob, before we started that debate.
well, I thought Josh made that clear in the.
But yes, he did.
But it seems at the moment it's who was the better overall player. So, like Gary, we may have well have picked Mitchell Moses or Josh Adokar. We could have had an even better team.
Yeah, look, it's that revisionist history coming up again, Eddie. I think Rob's just trying to sneak one under the radar and try and convince anyone, anywhere, that his team was better than ours, and we know he can't do that.
We've got to get back to hating each other. That's what I'm trying to do here. Throw a few barbs. Rob can throw a few back.
Yeah, I don't know if Rob has any decent barbs though.
Ooh, there you go. Uh, let's do another buy, sell, hold. Uh, it's not buy, sell, hold tonight, really. It's just questions. Lee hasn't been tell us, Nick. He said he regretted becoming the chairman of the West Tigers. I mean, that makes two of us because I regretted him becoming chairman as well.
Mm. I'm assuming he's got a lot of negative publicity. He doesn't like it,
Well,
so
yeah, to be honest, like Gary, I didn't read the article, but
I didn't
very
either.
long story short, it's about, Holman Barnes and the ownership, and we're hoping we're through the worst of that. But I suppose he had a point, despite the fact we don't want to hear from him again.
It's
Look,
a very valid point, Harry.
the, my favorite part of the article was when he said that he had very little control as chairman, and other people were making all the decisions. But boy, did he gloat about anything that we kind of did as in the club, and kind of passed it off as his own, and went on radio programs talking about what we were doing as a club. So um, I think again, it's a little bit of revisionist history from Chairman Lee, and well, ex-Chairman Lee, and I think he's trying to dump a little bit of rubbish on the club now that he's 18 months since he's kind of been moved on from the club.
Is he still up at Newcastle Soccer with Pasco, or is that still
D-
happening, or are they?
Does
Is that
does anyone
scrapped?
follow the Newcastle
No,
Jets? So who cares?
Australian soccer, yeah, it's probably not. Doesn't even make the paper anymore, Nick. It's sort of A League. It was meant to be revived. Now it's back to back to the days where I wouldn't even know if the season's going on or if it's finished. To be honest,
I think Bryden's killed them off.
probably could be. Hopefully that's true. Let's talk about the Manly game, Gary. 15 wins we've had from Manly from
So
37
there was
starts.
literally no buy
No,
buy sell
there
hold
was, there
questions at
was.
all.
Okay, you've brought it up. There was buy, sell, hold, but it was around to do with the people who've had the. We did a pod last week about the best West Tigers personalities and players. I was going to bring up some of the worst, but I've already fired all my bullets tonight, so I'm going to save that one for another episode. Perhaps if we do
That,
lose another 4 games in a row, I'll
that
do that.
sounds like a cracker.
There's a ranking system when there's a lot of hot candidates for who's had the worst impact on West Tigers in the last 25 years.
Are you going to include a coach? Because I
Yeah,
know,
Jason Taylor was right up the top of my list.
Yeah, did you include a chairman and CEO as well?
I did. I had
You
eight
did.
names. I also had your mate Aaron Woods, Garry, in the mix.
Yeah,
oh,
well, he causing lots of dramas all over the place now.
He is. All right, Manly game, boys. It's Friday, 6 o'clock, Brookvale Oval. Nick, I last went out to Brookvale Oval 2002. I think I was 16 or something like that. And I vowed never to go again. And
yeah.
I've been consistent.
I haven't been there since 2008. It would have been. That was only because I was there for a New South Wales Cup game with the Maggies, and the Tigers were actually playing after that. But that's the last time I've been there too. So yeah, not easy to get to unless you live out that way, I suppose. But yeah, 6 o'clock on a Friday. Like I said before, we get out of the way nice and early so we can move on after from about 8 p.m. and get on with the weekends. Hopefully on a happy note. But yeah, some interesting changes from both sides. Not sure where we start, but the one that not so much the fullback one from our side, but the fullback one from Manly, Tom Trebojevic into the centres, and he's being marked up against by Adam Dewey. So that's going to be a very interesting pair up. Hopefully, Adam can produce some of the defensive work that he's shown at times during this season to shut him down.
Garry, the big talking point, I suppose, in the team, we'll get to Buller's injury, but Luai to 6, Latu to 7. This is surely a sign of the future.
Yeah, well, hopefully this is the first time they're partnering in the halves for what's going to be 150, 200 games moving into the future. I'm really excited to see this. It's probably it's the most excited I've been about a game for quite a while this season, and to see Latu finally move into that halfback role and partner with Luai, I think is going to be something to see. And I, I, to me, the combination looks to be building quite well already. I loved last week how Latu was able to push Jerome a bit wider because that's where he plays his best football. And I'm really excited to see how they combine this weekend. And I think it's going to make a massive difference to our side. It's just a shame that Buller's injury kind of coincides with we finally get our halves that we're looking at moving forward with together, and the fullback is now out.
Gary, the only comment I'll make there on Lazio, and I'm excited as well to see him play in the halves. I think everyone's been wanting to see that since Lockie left, or if not before. But I know you were banging on, and I've heard a few others say that Lazio is most likely held back, because of minute restrictions coming back from his hammy injuries. Was it 55 minutes last week that he played?
I actually haven't checked the stats, but yeah,
It
it
was
wasn't.
somewhere around there. The
Yeah,
only thing I've got a question mark on is going from 55 minutes to potentially 80 of first grade seems a lot. And I know Joel was making a point that putting him in lock forward, the workload's a bit different, but he was making a lot of hard runs from the 13 jersey. So I don't know how much that impact's going to be different. And an extra potential 25 minutes on the field is quite a lot.
look, we don't know yet whether he'll actually see out their complete game. So there is a possibility that he gets a break at some point. There's a possibility that Tallyn comes on and plays a little bit of hooker, and Appy moves out into the halves. That wouldn't surprise me to see if they're still trying to get him slightly reduced minutes. But I think this is a move that we needed to make.
Yep.
It's really important to get these guys playing together, not just to start to build the combination, but we need to know if that's the halves partnering we're moving forward with next season. And if we wait much longer, then it's going to be really hard to make that decision about what to do in that position next year if it doesn't work.
I think Garry as well. Like we just need to start games way better. Like every
Yeah.
game, we're 12-0 down. Like Latu, you're right. He might only play 60 minutes, but at least if he comes off and we're 6 points in front or level, we're not out of the game when he's coming on.
Yeah, and the best football we've played over the last 2 weeks has been when he's on the field. And I think it was very telling in that Penrith game that the difference he made, because as soon as he went off, that's where we kind of lost our way again. So I think it's really important we get as much time out of him as possible, and I'm really pleased to see him starting in that role and starting in the halves. So really excited about that combination this weekend.
I saw a few comments. I think they interviewed Jerome today at Concord. I didn't see it all, Nick, but the guy's attitude, he's a real pro, impresses me because deep down, I think he really likes playing with Latu, and much so more than he did with Galvin. But he did come here to be the number seven, and it seems like it's probably been shelved after just more than half a season. But he's put his big boy pants on. I think he's all the right things you want to hear.
Yeah, I don't know how much of a difference there is between 6 and 7. I know that's always been, debated, especially over recent years, whether it's what side of the field you're on, blah blah blah. But has Jerome only played the one game wearing the six jersey prior to this coming Friday
Yeah,
this
with
year?
Adam Dewey.
Yeah, so it is interesting because I wondered whether Lazio would wear the six. I guess it doesn't matter, like I said, but and who's going to dominate? You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if Lazio. I don't think he's going to dominate as in more touches, but I think the way that he plays is probably going to come across. I think as dominating, just the way that he straightens up the attack a bit more. Um, they're both very different in that respects the way that they play Jerome and Latu, but I think it could complement each other really well. So really looking forward to seeing how they combine.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt they'll complement each other really well. Uh, I still think Jerome's going to be the chief playmaker, but what Latu's going to do, he's going to create that space for him. He's going to create that extra room. He's going to slow up the defenses from sliding off and onto Jerome because Latu's a real threat of running the ball. His acceleration and power through the line, he's very dangerous when he decides to go with the ball. So defenses can't kind of hang off him and slide early out onto Jerome. And I think we already saw the benefits that had last weekend. I thought last weekend playing outside Latu, once Latu came into that lock role, which he played pretty much the same as you would a traditional halfback role, was Jerome had a lot more space. He put in those couple of really nice kicks. We started to see Sam get some decent ball and hit some holes. We saw Adam Dewey hit a really good hole running off him. And I think that's what we're going to see. I think Jerome's still going to be the chief playmaker, but he's going to have a little bit more time and a little bit more space. And I think it's really crucial. And I just think the more space you can kind of give Jerome, the better he'll be. And I'm really excited, not just to see Latu play, but to see what he does for Jerome Luai over the course of a game.
They did say, Gary, I think close with the stats that Luai was averaging around 50 touches a game when he was playing with Galvin. That's gone closer to 70 the last few weeks. Do you expect that balance to go down or to be similar with Latu there, you reckon?
Look, I think he will still get a lot of touches. With Galvin, even especially early in the season, even then a lot of his touches were feeding the ball to Galvin, and I do think there was a genuine effort from Jerome Luai to keep Galvin kind of happy and get him all the ball that he wanted. I don't think we're going to have that issue. If you have a look at the relationship, even the photos coming out, there was some sponsorship photos coming out today, there's pictures of Latu and Luai together, and they look to be getting on great. The news I've heard is that they have a really strong relationship. That Luai feels that there's a really good chemistry among between them out on the field as well. So I'm just really excited that we finally get to see this halves pairing this weekend.
Alrighty, let's talk Jack Bird. Nick, he gets an opportunity on the right edge. Alex Seyfarth demoted to the bench. We sort of were hoping, some of us were hoping that might happen. You happy with that?
Uh, yes and no. I'm not sure if he's a back rower. I just don't think he has the impacts that a back rower should have. He's got a very good passing game, obviously, being a former half. And centre as well. And I know, Gary, you've said that centres out and back rowers these days is not a great deal of difference. So, look, he's going to do a decent job. I think a lot of people have probably said that they've seen enough of Seyfarth in the back row for a while. So I don't mind Seyfarth going back to the bench. I actually hope Seyfarth, if he's going to be involved, is going to be in that prop rotation rather than playing out wide a bit. But we'll see what happens there. But yeah, look, I don't mind seeing Jack Bird. I don't know what the other options are. So at the moment, we're a bit thin out in that edge. So, I hope he has a cracker.
Yeah, I'm very happy with Jack Bird going into that role. I probably myself would have put Suka there. Um, I think that would have been my option, but he's on the bench anyway, and I expect him to go into that right edge position at some point, and with Bird probably moving to the lock role. So I think Bird can do a job there. I don't think he is a long-term solution there, which is pretty much the same as the club sees it because they've brought in Kai Pearce-Paul for next year. It was time for Seyfarth to kind of move back to the bench. His first contact and his control of the tackle just isn't strong enough to be playing out on that edge. In both attack and defense, he gets pushed back too easily in defense and gets dominated with the ball in offense. So um, I think it's a decision that had to be made by Benji, and I was very pleased to see a change in that position when the side was announced yesterday.
Because I was actually, I won't, this is not my point, I actually was listening to Adele say it. I thought this was really interesting. He said most teams' defensive right edge has to be their strongest, Gary, because I was assuming teams who
Yeah, I heard him say that as
attack
well. Yeah,
is the easiest way to pass the ball. And like when you think all year we've had Seyfarth and Galvin together, I think on that left
yeah.
edge who've really struggled. I'm not saying Bird's going to be 1,000% better, but do you think that's something that long term the club has to look at?
100%. You have a look at that combination between Heath Mason, Alex Seyfarth, and Stafford Toa last weekend. That's where Canberra ripped us apart. That's where the mistakes came. That's where the errors came. That's where the defensive um, misreads and overcommitments came. And really, for me, I think I said it on the pod we did on Sunday night. That right edge cost us the game on Sunday, and it was really disappointing to see. But we've made quite big changes there, and I think defensively that right edge will be a lot stronger. Latu Fainu is an excellent defender. He has really good contact. He makes really good reads, and he actually hits fairly hard for a half. So that's a great improvement over Heath Mason on that edge. And Jack Bird is a massive improvement over Seyfarth defensively. I still think he doesn't have that impact with the ball that we need on that right edge. So that's still going to be a little bit of an issue. But I think defensively, that right edge will be much stronger on the weekend. And and it's one of the reasons I think we can get away with a win against Manly.
Jareen Bullet, Nick, massive blow. Him out
Yeah.
for probably about a month. I mean, typical Tigers apparently happened on the last play of the game. But yeah, just reading the forums, like I like to do, get some sort of reaction where the fans are leaning. There's pretty mixed reaction to Heath Mason going back to fullback.
Yeah, I was a bit 50-50. I didn't actually mind Heath going back, but on the same sort of thing there, I didn't mind who came in. Like I know Gary, you were talking about the possibility of Taruva coming in playing fullback. I saw on X some people, I know you guys will probably shoot it down whether Charlie Staines comes in. I'm not saying he would have been the answer, but I don't mind it. He's been in and around the team now for quite a while. He would have some combinations. I don't think he's the complete fullback, and he's obviously not the complete half, which is why he's being moved around a little bit and probably a bit of a backup player. But I think he'll do a job. I think what we'll really miss with Jareem, a lot of our attack lately has been with Jareem chasing through those high kicks and trying to catch the one that's coming over his shoulder, and he's had a little bit of success there. Um, Heath will give that a crack, but he doesn't have the height or the athletic ability that Dream has, and he doesn't have the ball, passing game that Dream has either. So there's some definite differences there in their styles of play, but he's going to have a go. So I'd like to see Heath play a bit of a Brett Hodgson style game, just sniffing around the ruck, following Latu and Jerome around the halves and looking for an opportunity to run through. So yeah, I hope he has a good game too.
We lose a lot by not having Dream Buller there. If you remember back to round one, we played with absolutely no shape, and as soon as Buller came back, we at least had a little bit of shape of him sliding around the back. So we're going to miss that, and I'm a little bit worried that despite it being fairly one-dimensional at times last weekend, I think our attack has a risk of being a little bit one-dimensional without us being able to run those block shapes that we've kind of seen with Dream out the back. My hope is that Latu going into the halves kind of counters that loss of Buller out the back, and we have better shape because we're pushing Jerome a little bit wider. I'm not a huge fan of Mason at fullback. Uh, a number of times in that game earlier in the season, he didn't attack the ball. He didn't attack the high ball. He let it bounce. These are things that we can't afford to have this weekend. Personally, I did think about earlier in the week that I'd like to see Taruva in that role. But Luke Lilly's been playing fullback in State Cup and been doing a really good job of it, making a lot of meters, scoring a fair few tries, and being quite dangerous. So I think that could have been an option. But I do agree with Nick. Heath Mason's been in and around the side for the last 3 weeks now. So it's probably the least disruptive move is to moving back to fullback. But I am concerned about it. He is very one-dimensional in attack, and I'm worried that that will make our attack very one-dimensional as well.
Be interesting the game plan, Gary, because I don't know if is one dimensional a bit harsh with Heath Mason because he's quick. Like he's more the guy
He,
who's going to back up through the middle. And I'm looking at this Manly pack, which is rubbish. I think it's absolute rubbish, like compared to most teams. It Lodge, Tavanga, Takiyahu, Waddell, Jake Travojevic, who I'd outrun over 40 metres these days, and Ben Travojevic. Like, if we can't get over the top of that pack, I think maybe we have to centre our attack a little bit this week. Not saying we've got the best forward pack in the world, but surely guys like Terrell May, Appy, and if we get some offloads, I reckon Mason could be good in this game.
look, really, I think Pole and Sione's been great, and Terrell earlier in the season was offloading a lot. There was a game where he had close to 10 offloads. So it is definitely something that he could do, sniff around and follow Terrell May through the middle because he does have a good offload. Terrell seems to have put that away a little bit the last couple of weeks, but maybe that's something that can come out again this weekend. Um, yeah, more one the one-dimensional aspect of it is there's no real passing game there. Even playing 5'8" last week, he does not have the passing game that Dream Buller does. He doesn't have the ease of breaking through the line himself that Buller has. What you do have is if you give him a little bit of space, he will take that space. He is quick, he has a decent step, and I think it comes down to us creating that space. And I just don't think we're going to see the clear ball movement that we've been able to see from Dream Buller with Heath Mason in that role. So I think our outside backs may have a tougher game, which kind of plays into your theory, Eddie, of playing them through the middle.
Well, Nick, before the fans hate me even more than they do at the moment, I am going to clarify. I don't prefer Heath Mason to Jareen Buller at fullback. I've never once said that, even though
You may have thought it a couple of times though.
I have been a Buller critic in the past, but I think he's been excellent this year. So I will be interested to see how that goes because it's sort of like the things you don't appreciate with Buller, you probably don't notice them until he's not out there, which is what Gary pointed out. Which if he's going to be put under pressure, Heath Mason in this game with particularly the high ball.
Yep, agreed. I'm going to say something that no doubt the two of you and a lot of people will destroy me for, and we can't do it now because unless Benji's listening to this and he hears my suggestion and makes a late change. Um, but just thinking about
Joined by Nick Sheens on the podcast.
yeah, Nick Sheens is here. But just thinking about missing that shape or lacking that shape with Dream out the back, Gary not being available on Friday. What if you move someone like Adam Dewey to fullback, who has some who has some playmaking skills and he's played fullback in the past? He'd probably be a bit better than Heath Mason under the high ball. I know he doesn't have that explosive speed or much speed at all, but he might actually have that capability to loop
You're
around
very,
behind.
very brave asking, or you're just trying to wind him up. It's one of the two.
Well, I can
I,
see it. I can see it, Gary. Can you see it?
no, I
In
never
his
want to see
nightmares,
it.
you can see it.
I never want to see Adam Dewey play fullback ever again. Even back when he did play a fair bit of fullback for us, I didn't want him playing fullback then. He doesn't have the pace for it. The one thing I would give him, and the concern I do have is Mason is quite short for a fullback, which isn't necessarily an issue. Taruva's quite short, and Skelton, while a bit taller, isn't the tallest swinger in the world either. So we're lacking a little bit of height in our back three, and I'm sure, especially when you've got Tom Travojevic playing in the centres, he's going to be a target for for cross field bombs. So it's something that the side needs to be aware of. Um, and we need to do something to kind of help those guys out a little bit because I can see Manly attacking us through the air.
Rightio. Prediction, Nick. I don't like giving predictions. My honest thought is, we probably lose this in Golden Point. That's just how we. I know you're laughing, but I'm dead serious. Like I'm thinking about putting a bet on Manly to win Golden Point because that's the way this is how it's going. Our luck at the moment. But I will make one prediction, and it's a bit of a cop out, Gary, because it's not really a prediction. But I think either the Titans game, Cowboys game, or this game. We play Manly twice and the Titans twice. So I'm spreading my wings across 5 games here. We're going to have a win that's by 30 or more. I think when we do win, it'll be a big win. I just don't know if it'll be this week.
I expect us to win this weekend. I'm not going to say it's going to be 30, but I think we'll get a comfortable win this weekend. I'm not going to give a score prediction, but I can see us winning 13 plus this weekend. I think Manly is really poor. I think they've given up on their coach, and I think we're going to see what usually happens to a side that gives up on their coach over the next couple of weeks with Manly.
I'll say Tigers win by a point, and it would be Golden Point, and Terrell May's going to kick the field goal
I'll be
because
under,
we don't have anyone else.
I'll be under the
So
couch if that's happening. Honestly,
yeah, just pointless, Nick.
Golden Point. Please no. Quiz, boys, before we wrap this up. I haven't read it, so this could be a disaster, but Uh, just going to scroll down and find it. Gary, you got anything to talk about for a minute while I scroll down and find the quiz?
Yeah, I had a really good weekend. Went to basketball. No. Um, but look, Nick,
I
who
found
do
it.
you think? So you're ready now, so I can stop hosting?
You can ask your question if you want.
No, it's too late.
Multiple choice. What was the second half score when the West Tigers beat Manly 1918 at the old SFS in 2009? Was it A 13-6 West Tigers, B 18-1 Manly? I think that might be a well, it's not a misprint given there's a field goal. That's fair. C, 12 all second half, or was it D, Manly 18-0? A, B, C, or D, Gary?
D.
I didn't really listen. I'm going to go A. I think it was 13-6. Was that A?
The answer is B. We led 18-0 at halftime, so I think that was just a little misprint there. He's got 18-1 here. 18-0 at halftime,
See, I would have got that right if it had said 18
with
nil.
a Farah field goal being our only second half score. Question 2, true or false? Oh, well, I don't know if I want to read this question. A 2016 Jason Taylor
Uh,
signing, lead the one word out he used before that, surname is shared with the past West Tigers player's first name, albeit spelt differently. Anyone have any idea what that means? I'll read it out one more time. A 2016 Jason Taylor signing surname. He was a hooker. I'll give you a clue.
And we're not naming the player though, isn't it? We're just saying true or false.
No. It is. Yeah, it is true or false actually. But there'll be people out there that
True,
are interested in this stuff.
true.
I'll say false.
It is true. So the player he signed was Matt Ballon, and that was the first name of a player who played in 2002-3. Remember it, Gary? Ballon?
No.
Ballon Couples.
Oh yeah.
2002-3 played 4 games. Question 3. Name the 5 West Tigers players who he signed from an overseas club prior to our infamous 2005 season.
Mark O'Halloran.
Nope. One was a redhead, Gary. None of them went on to any great heights at West Tigers.
I don't think I'm going to get any of these.
These are between 2000 and 2004 guys that were
Came
signed from
from
an
England.
overseas club. One was a blonde-headed hooker. One was a red-headed back rower slash lock. One was a winger,
We didn't get Nick Graham from over there, did we?
apparently. Wigan Warriors.
And what was the first one you said?
Blonde-headed hooker, played around Darren Center's era.
Robert Mears.
Robert Mears, yep. We got a winger, played a bit for Penrith. Robbie Beckett,
Oh yeah.
a half who played for a few clubs. Bit of a funny one here because he's doing silly business, silly buggers because we signed him from the Auckland Warriors, so he's playing in the NRL, but an overseas club. It was John Simon.
Yeah, I was about to say John Simon.
And the other one was the great Glenn Eyre, who played one game for the West Tigers.
I quite like John Simon.
Nearest to the pin. Out of 17, how many of our 2005 Premiership winning squad have tasted victory at Brookvale during their entire West Tigers career? Garry, you go first.
Why do I have to go first all the time, Eddie? I'm going to say 5.
4.
The answer is 6. 2003 winners were Fitzhenry, Scandalis, LaFranchi, O'Neill, and Galea. And round 6, 2018, and round 17, 2020, the great Benji Marshall, victorious at Brookvale. Finished with a Who Am I? I was born in Brisbane in 1981. Played 110 games, scoring 1 try in 6 years for a fellow Western Sydney club. I joined West Tigers in the year we were premiership favourites. I think that was 2012 from memory. Featured in 23 of 24 games. Played 9 games the following year in what was my final season. Returned back to where I was born and played for the Burleigh Bears. I was a forward. My surname is shared with a train station on the Blue Mountains line.
The surname was it?
Yeah. I remember the name, but I would never have got it. He played for Penrith between 2006 and 2011. Played for West Tigers in 2012 and 2013. 32 games, scoring no tries. The station is Bell, which is between Mount Victoria and Lithgow. Is that your way, Garry?
Yeah, about an hour away, but
And
yes.
his name is Matthew Bell.
I don't even remember him.
Yeah, so thank you, Yioti. Another very tricky quiz for the listeners out there.
The serial over to Taco.
Yeah, exactly. Boys, that's it. Hopefully, I won't be required Sunday because it seems I'm required every couple of days at the moment, Garry. It's the depths of winter, and you know people's character come out in the depths of winter. I'm fronting up every show, but other people, they're now war correspondents, or they've got excuses, or you know,
Yeah, we've had a huge couple of weeks, Eddie.
we
What
have.
happens when you're popular, Gary and Eddie? Just suck it up and get on with it.
Well said, Nick. Uh, Tom Shines, he's on the West Tigers forum. He said he was scared by my acceptance. So hopefully, Tom, you were a bit happy with my performance tonight. I tried to show that I'm actually, not rosy with everything that's going on.
Yeah, positive Eddie.
See you, boys.
Thanks,
See you
boys.
guys.